I'll just...
Good evening.
Well, hang on. When I say hello, that means I've started this.
Okay.
So I don't want to cheat you of any time, sir. And I just have to figure out this other one. Yep. So make sure you give your name and your address and hello.
Hello. Okay. Hello. My name is Navras Poljaric. I'm from Sanic, 4540 Pheasantwood Terrace. I just want to say this. I sent, just after the election, I sent 2 emails to mayor and council. The first email, I got no response whatsoever. I sent it individually to all councillors. So I sent another email 3 weeks later. I got 1 response from Councillor Murdoch. Is that you? Can I just read your last sentence?
I feel like I can stop you.
It says, I continue to research the options available for longer-term solutions. And I wanted to say that. In my opinion, the time to do research for options was years ago, in 2011, when the issue first got discussed at council, and then the CRD nominated the CAG and so on, and this whole process started. There was the time to do research for the options. Now it's too little too late. As we speak, probably some deer are being killed out there in the traps, as far as I heard. And so there was a time to do research, and the research has been there for decades, and science has been there for decades. So there was a time, and I think, in my opinion, council has not done this research until now, and now, as I said, it's a bit late. The damage has been done already to your community. I'm saying your community because I'm from Sanic. However, in the greater Victoria, we are all affected by this. The damage has been done already because, as you know, I assume you read the Open News, you know, you know, the number of letters to the editor about the TV show is amazing, and most of them against the cull. So the community, as Karen Green said recently at CFAX, the community, she's never seen a so divisive or divisive, whatever you say, issue in her community. She's very concerned. I'm concerned too, being from Sanic, so I want to see what the other communities are going to do. But what I want to say is, even if you stop it right now and reverse your plan of action, the damage is still already been done, and it's going to be difficult, a very difficult process to recover. And if you go ahead, if you proceed in this plan, I can guarantee you the damage will be much worse, much more. It's getting worse and worse day by day. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to just let that one go, but please don't do that again, all right? Please, I'm just going to listen to these the speakers, and I prefer if you don't do that. So thank you very much. It was under 3 minutes, so we have a little extra time, and I just have to figure out what. Here we go. 3. Hello.
Hi. Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is Barry Mackay. My address is 31 Colonel Butler Drive, Markham, Ontario. I work for an organization called Born for USA. I'm associated with several other organizations, including Animal Alliance of Canada. And I've been doing this work for 40 plus years. This work being dealing with various wildlife issues, most particularly including wildlife and trade on one hand, and conflict situations in the other, and particularly culls, both urban and wilderness, involving a wide number of animals, including deer, white-tailed, and mule deer, and for that matter, elk. And I can tell you that there's nothing new here, that these arguments, this divisiveness within the community, the charges and counter-charges, it's all been done again and again. There's nothing that I will be able to say that would change anyone's mind on either side of the issue here tonight. I appreciate that. But what I do want to say to you is that the culling, generally speaking, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, and certainly with regard to deer, doesn't work. In some cases has the paradoxical result of an increase in population size, when in fact we know the population size. And some communities continue. I mean, there's one in the States going on for, I think, 10 years now. doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result each year, doesn't happen. And that's just the unfortunate part. I'm not saying that there aren't problems. There's always problems. Anytime that any kind of animal interacts with humans, it can be negative on either side of it or both sides of that division, no doubt about that. There are ways to work through it, but the attractive way, the way that seems to attract political attention is to get rid of them, whether it's killing or translocation or even just neutering them, as opposed to working at solutions to the problem. Those solutions are there, and all I urge you to do, I know you're going to have a cull this year, you're probably going to have more culls in years to come, but eventually I think you'll reach a point, and I hope it's sooner rather than later, that you begin to look at it progressively and that you actually work toward a resolution, because they are out there. They won't compete. Nobody will ever be completely satisfied or completely happy. And the only way to achieve that, where there's never any problem, would be to exterminate the species on the island. But other than that, short of that, there are things that can be done. And I urge you to eventually get to the point where you sincerely start to work with them, work with the community, and also work with others who can help you. And certainly we'd be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Okay, please. And you know the reason I do that, I discourage this kind of show of support or not support is because there may be people in the audience who may want to have, may want to present an opposite opinion. Oh, you have to stop now, sorry. And it's best not, it's to encourage people to speak. And I think if people may feel intimidated if they think the whole audience is there clapping for one side and not the other. So please just respect that. Thank you very much, and I certainly appreciate the first two speakers and their respectful submissions. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, how are you? My name is Liz White. I'm with the Animal Alliance Environment Voters Party of Canada and with the BC Deer Protection Coalition. And I think, unlike many people in this room, I've attended a cull. I attended it in Cranbrook, that was done 2013, and members of our BC Deer Protection Coalition have attended every single cull that's occurred in the Kootenays, Invermere, Cranbrook, Kimberley, and Elkford. And so we speak with, I think, a fair amount of authority about concerns with the cull that's coming to Oak Bay. So I want to touch on briefly on two issues. One is the inhumaneness of the cull. And I know there's been some discussion about the fact that the chief veterinarian of BC says that the trapping is humane. I think if you actually look at the statistical data and the studies that have been done, it shows that clover traps are a serious problem for the animals that get in them. Part of it is the period of time that the animals are in them. It could be anywhere up to 9 or 10 hours, depending on when the deer goes in and when the cull contractor arrives to get rid of the deer. But it also depends on the environment around the deer. Are there dogs out? Are there other animals in the environment that are causing that deer to react? So animals in the trap have all kinds of injuries, both major and minor. This was a study that was done in the United States, examining and comparing clover traps and other types of traps, and that 5 out of the 6 deer that died in the traps died from capture myopathy in clover traps. That was the greatest death. So I think at the end of the day, there's serious questions about the humaneness, and I think if you only look at the deer in the trap as the issue of humaneness, you don't cover the whole thing. So in Elkford, a number of deer were orphaned. Young fawns, 7 months of age, were orphaned. Their mothers were killed in the trap and they were left orphaned. And we got the data, given that there were a number of people in the community that watched for them and saw what happened to them. Some of them were fed and survived, but the ones that were not fed did not survive and died from starvation and predation. So I think that is an issue of serious humane issues. The other issue I just want to talk briefly about is the issue of this being raised about exploding populations. I've been all through Oak Bay. I've looked at spent the last 4 days looking extensively at all the vegetation and stuff. I can't see, have hardly seen a deer. But more importantly, we need to take a close look at the numbers. The maximum number of deer that were counted on the single day, the largest number was 26. A number of people say that,
Wrap up, please.
okay, the number of people say that it was 94, but in fact it was 26, and my conversation with Jeff Wakeman confirmed that The number of collisions that the ICBC shows, and I've got a submission, are very, very small, and the carcass count has been pretty stable for the last few years. So I urge you to reconsider.
Thank you, Ms.
And I
White.
wondered if I could pass out a submission?
If there's some written material,
Yes.
we're always welcome that. If you
Excellent.
would give that to the deputy clerk, please, Ms. Jones, and she'll make sure that it's passed around later.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to
You're
talk.
welcome to British Columbia.
Yes, thank you.